Boom.
Boom.
Love it.
Let's do it. Let's drill it.
Boom! Wow, something happened with my throat there. It was like the frog in the throat. Wild Bill Rice is joining us. No relation to Jerry Rice.
Nope. But it's a question I've gotten a couple times.
Can you catch the ball or run as fast as Jerry?
I can do neither. I had a failed basketball career. That's probably the closest I got to being a professional athlete.
I went to a Suns game, Suns-Lakers. I think it was probably the last NBA game I went to about 20 years ago. My wife bought tickets, and she got them from a scalper or somebody was before online, and it was a ridiculous amount. And the guy said it was really good seats, and it was in the last row at Phoenix at the Suns place. Like you could feel the altitude, like the pressure change when you got up to the top.
Yeah.
And we got up there, but before we got in, we were walking in, and we ended up walking next to Jerry Rice. He was there. It was pretty
nice.
Cool. Yeah,
nice.
I'm like,
that was probably like
Jerry.
Charles Barkley days, right?
Yeah.
Those are.
It was.
I love Charles Barkley. I'm an SEC guy. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Barkley.
That was when I went to my first professional game, and I played basketball, but I was amazed. And I had really good seats. This was back. I worked for Quicken Loans at one time, and he had just bought the Cavs, and we got floor seats. And the closest I'd ever been, normally when you're sitting in the nosebleed, it's like, oh, that looks like just a regular game TV. Right. But I was on the floor, and these guys, and now I'm 6'2". These guys are like, it's like 3 strides, and they're all the way at the other end of the floor. It's like never seen something so amazing.
Yeah, we went from it wasn't very full. Like it wasn't like COVID time basketball, but there still wasn't that full. And I said, okay, we're gonna go get better seats. And so we went down and we got right near the court. And that also, it struck me like, holy crap, they are enormous. Like you don't realize how big these guys are until you're like standing. Because I'd been at college, but this is the next level. I mean, they're just so big. It's nuts.
Yeah. It's just, it's amazing. These guys are at that level. It's just crazy. Any sport.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Jason doesn't even know what we're talking about.
No, that's a sport.
You're an e-gamer or something? Like, is that like...
More so than I am a basketball player, that's for sure.
He just says foosball.
He went to GCU, which is out in Phoenix, and when we toured the campus, he's like, they were one of the first with like a recruited e-gamer team, and he's like, they go into that building and they never come out. Like that's where the e-gamer team. That's where they are. It's like
that's funny. So, nice.
That is funny.
Well, Bill Rice, welcome to the Insurance Dudes. I know you're trying to put it off, but you are going to run through the gauntlet of speed breakers. So let's get it going. Are you ready, sir?
All right, we'll do our best. I'm going to try.
Right. Have you ever had a mullet?
I have. That's about all I can rock beyond this really short stuff. So
nice. First crush.
Love it.
Oh, oh boy, man, I'm forgetting her name now. Kathy Ireland. She had like the green eyes.
Yes. Yeah, I had a bunch of posters on the wall of Kathy Ireland.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Ridiculous. Yeah,
I think still.
Then I heard her she's like a really successful business person, but it ruined it for me. This is when she was young, but she spoke in an interview and she was not very smart. So it ruined everything. I like the smart girls. My wife will appreciate that comment.
Yes. Most embarrassing thing your mother ever caught you doing?
Oh, boy. I don't know. I was a pretty good kid, actually. I don't know. Maybe smoking or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Probably doesn't hit. That's not what you're looking for, but
it's all good.
The worst I got.
Fastest speed ever driven?
Oh, I have crossed 100 miles an hour on a motorcycle once, and that was terrifying.
It is terrifying. Wow.
I was with a bunch of guys that were better than me, and I was shaking the rest of the day.
It is.
I was trying to keep up.
On the motorcycle is just insane. Favorite cereal?
Probably Oops Berry.
Okay.
The Captain Crunch, just the berries though.
Oh wow! Ooh, I had Crunch Berry this morning.
Yeah, there you
Yes,
go.
I
They
am
have them with
12.
just the berries, so you don't have to sort
Wow.
them out.
That seems like it's so much. I mean, that's so much berry.
Yeah, it's not a typical thing I do, but
And how many kids
I have 4
have
kids,
you made
two
cry?
boys.
Have you made cry? Please wait for the question to
Oh, sorry. Have I made what?
cry.
I don't know what that is. I'm thinking
Were
I'm
the,
missing it. I don't know. I guess not.
were the kids cry? How many kids
Oh,
have you
have I
made?
made them cry? Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Count Chocula or Count Dracula?
Count Chocula, probably.
Okay. Favorite fastest mile?
Ooh, I was a runner, so I've probably been about 5:30, maybe.
Ooh, that might be our
Ooh, that
first
might be
in the
the
fives.
lowest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
win.
can't do it now. I have bad knees and hips. And all
Yeah,
that good
it just doesn't work the same anymore.
Yeah.
Favorite flavor?
Oh, chocolate. Yeah.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs for sure.
Correct. Tacos or burritos?
Tacos.
Also correct. Favorite video game?
Boy, not a big video game guy, but
Yeah.
I play Clash Royale. I guess maybe that counts. That's a mobile
Oh,
kind of app
yeah.
game.
My
So
son plays that. Yeah.
yeah,
I
I'm a
mean, I
kid
did for a
still.
little. I couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
Mine is Super Tecmo Bowl from the old Nintendo,
Oh,
and then
Well,
of course Trump.
mine's
Yeah.
reflective of who I am. That's a 3-minute battle, and that's about
Right.
all the
That's
attention
it.
span
That's
I
all you
give
can do.
up. Yeah.
Perfect. And then Trump or Biden? You don't
Oh
have to
boy,
answer.
you're gonna get me in trouble. I probably should avoid that because I have clients. So
That is
yeah,
fine.
you can avoid that.
Congratulations, you made it through, Jason.
And Wild Bill, what was the first concert you ever went to?
oh, the first concert. It was probably
Please say
AC/DC.
Paul Abdul. Oh,
Oh no, no
AC/DC
way.
is a good one.
Yeah, AC/DC. Yeah, I was a metal guy. So
That was one of my
Metallica,
first.
AC/DC.
That was
Yeah.
that was one of my first concerts. Was Paul Abdul? That's right.
Mine was
AC/DC would have been a lot better.
Yeah, and
Oh,
mine was
it
Oingo
was. That
Boingo,
was
which is
good.
somewhere in between those two.
I have been to Oingo Boingo, and I feel like I was tricked. My roommate had me go, and I didn't know what I was in for, but it was definitely
Yeah,
different.
it is different. It is different. Jason, what happened?
Boom. Sorry about that. Crazy technical difficulties.
Well, perfect.
Your
Well,
Oingo
so
Boingo playlist kicked off.
yeah. Oh, did you say Siri play Oingo Boingo? Oh no, I shouldn't say that. Things could happen. So, Wild Bill,
That's
take
what
us
happened.
back. Yeah, take us all the way back to AC/DC times and tell us how you got involved in the insurance industry. What led you to where you are today?
Yeah, I'm probably a little bit unique for you guys in that I'm not like an insurance agent or broker. I come
Uh huh.
from the marketing and lead generation side.
Mm.
So at the core, my agency is a lead generation agency. We help financial services, mortgage, insurance, those sorts of things. But specifically, I think how I got connected with you is one of my clients is Age Lead Store, and they sell, and this is really popular in insurance, which I didn't know till I got involved with them. But they sell age leads, and insurance folks love using that to build a book of business. And so, one of the things that we've been doing for him for like 10 years, and I've been kind of the primary driver, is just teaching insurance agents how to sell to internet leads, because it's usually a really different sort of technique. Most insurance agencies either inherit a book of business or build on referrals and that sort of thing. So this concept of getting sort of a random consumer from the internet, different kind of lead. And so we teach tons and tons of sales techniques and sort of sales automation and marketing around how to go after these type of consumers. And now with COVID, everybody's almost having to figure out consumer direct and internet. And so that's my journey to insurance.
Awesome. Yeah, we too have a lot of experience with leads, and that's how Jason and I over the last few years have been building our businesses. And we made it pretty specific on, where leads come in, who they go to, where we have telemarketers, they go to the telemarketers then send it over to the producers, because it all comes down to contact, right? At the front of the funnel, you got to put dials on it, and you need contact. So
contact rates, everything. Follow through. I mean, that's kind of the newer thing,
Yep.
For a long time, it was speed to contact. Now that consumers are kind of just getting used to interacting with companies this way, now that follow up and that ongoing nurturing process is probably, equally important.
Yep.
Now it's just to keep consistency, with that consumer.
Yeah.
I
Jason,
agree. I think that's a huge misconception, that before it really was speed to contact. And so now people think, and I think when they first get into the lead game, they think that speed to contact is it. And they call them, they don't get them on the phone, and it's like, that lead sucks. Or, you call them and like, they're not too interested because maybe they were contacted by somebody else, and they kind of give up, where it's like, it's really the persistency that trumps speed at this point.
All day, every day.
The other thing that I'm finding too that might be helpful is, in sales, we always talk about kind of asking that calibrating question to figure out like where that consumer is mindset wise. Are they just trying to figure this out? Are they starting? Do they have like an urgency right now with insurance? Do they have an issue? But is the calibrating channels on top of that? So before we were like speed to contact, get them on the phone. And now we're actually telling people, hey, figure out what channel they're most comfortable in. So give them a phone call, send them that email, and then drop that text message, and figure out consumers now, like, we've done whole deals through text message because that's what they're used to, or that's what they prefer. Maybe it's an age thing, I don't know. But, figuring out what channel they prefer and going ahead and hitting with all, because like you said, Jason, if you just call them and nobody answers the phone, and then you just think they're dead, they're just waiting for the right insurance, person to text them, because that's the way they want to do business. So hitting them on all three, figure out what channel they like.
Or the right number of dials
Love
too.
that.
And the right number of dials, because eventually they pick up. And like, what are you seeing as a good first day contact rate on leads? Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of all over the place depending on, the playbook that the guys, are running. One of the cadences that we like to sort of advocate is immediately do that responsive call. Sometimes, again, depending on clients or compliance and legal and all this stuff, sometimes it's a voicemail drop. We're going to immediately do that call. We're going to immediately, if we're going to drop a voicemail, we're going to say, hey, I'm going to follow up with an email with all that contact information. That email is going to drop automatically. Text message is going to drop automatically. So we're testing all three channels. That's happened instantly as soon as they fill out the form, trying to get feedback as to what they want. Believe it or not, the text message in the first day hits about a 40% contact rate. We'll get some sort of response. The aggregate is probably more like 20%. But then we're following up later in the day with one more last phone call at the end of the day, maybe a second text message. But by the end of that day, if we're dealing with real-time leads, we're probably hitting about 20% where we get some sort of response during the first day.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. What I'd like to know. So you deal with lead generation in multiple industries. When you first started doing lead generation for insurance agencies, what were some of the standout points that differentiated the insurance leads than other leads?
Well, I guess there's two approaches. I think from the sales side of things, insurance, a lot of my background actually is in mortgage, and mortgage was kind of like, the first in the market. They had huge call centers. They were buying tons and tons of leads. And so very quickly that call center telemarketing front end was just part of the business, and insurance was behind that. Insurance, even today, there's people are more personal. The salespeople are more like individuals. It's a personable experience. It's just it's a less sort of aggressive mindset. I think that may be changing a little bit. From the consumer side, one of the things that I like about insurance versus all the other verticals is particularly in mortgage, that consumer is coming in and they're viable for a very finite period of time. And then that transaction is infrequent and they're gone forever. One of the things that I love about leads for insurance is almost for any insurance product, the consumer is always in the market. They're always willing to hear, if they can get a better price or maybe learn something that they didn't understand about coverage. So, done right from the sales perspective, that consumer is always viable for a new deal. So that's one of the things from a lead generation perspective, why I love insurance, because the consumer is just always a viable deal.
That's a great point. And what are some of the things that your clients are saying to really hook them to start those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and again, it varies. Final expenses is one thing. There's a lot of auto folks there, but, and it's particularly as we deal with age leads, it's almost, I don't know if it's harder or easier, but the age leads I kind of like because no one's in the market with you usually, because real time you're competitive. So on the real time, kind of the opening line is always, hey, I'm just responding to your requests and I want to be, as reactive and as responsive as I can to what you're looking for. And then I let them talk. I love silence on a call. It's like, hey, I'm just responding to you. How can I help? Like what caused you to call in? What caused you to fill out that form? On the age side, the assumptive just checking in. I've gotten a lot of heat for this, like on YouTube, where people are like, oh, you're being deceptive. But my opening line with an age, set of data is, hey, because usually know when that person inquired is, hey, a couple months ago, you asked for a rate quote. I'm just checking in to see if you were able to get that quote and if you had any questions, and then boom, silence. And usually the person will run with that. They'll say, no, I got handled. And of course, that's from not interested. I'm a big believer in just powering through the bulk of the leads, and just not interested means not interested. And then just moving forward. And really, when we're talking about age leads, I always tell people this is an act of at least that initial contact, even probably on real-time leads. It's more of a sorting exercise. It's not a sales exercise. Once you get some feedback, then you can turn it into sales. But that first initial, contact and the first things you say is a sorting mechanism. Like, let's figure out where their mindset is, how they're going to respond to you. And then from there, I can figure out my tact, but don't try to hit them with, I'm Bob from Hometown Insurance and I'm going to give you the best deal you've ever seen. It's just too aggressive.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we always say that initial contact is like the pickup line, and you don't want to go too deep with that pickup line. Make it super surfacey and not, you don't want to go into the first date or the proposal. Right off the bat.
Well,
you're not gonna.
And I think too, like, I talk about silence all the time and just dropping something out there and letting that consumer spin the story. A lot of times when you go like headlong in there, and you say, hey, this is Bill from insurance company and I want to do this for you or whatever, bam, defense goes up. But if I just say, hey, this is Bill, I'm just checking in, a lot of times that person starts going, okay, who's Bill? Oh, I inquired, and that makes sense because they remember filling out that form, right? You trigger that. And all of a sudden they're kind of back on their heels trying to figure out, and then they start responding to you versus, you kind of going in there with guns blazing and they get that defense going. So I love to just let them, get their brains spinning and them trying to figure out how to respond. And a lot of times it works out okay, right? So in case then they feel like, oh, I got to fill the silence,
Yeah, silence is key, I think, and I think it's when we get into especially like the sales talk. I mean, people have to realize that it's not the same kind of conversation that you have with your friends. There has to be it has to be intentional. Silence has to be intentional, or the questions that you asked have to be intentional with trying to initiate some sort of outcome. rather than trying to see where they're at. Like, hey, do you want a quote? It's like, nobody wants a quote.
Nobody,
No.
Yeah.
Don't ask a question
what do
that
you
you
guys
know you're going to get a no to.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about scripts? I'm like a big believer. I feel like that helps, is to have
100%.
a script. And
yeah, one of my guys here in my office, he's really good in talking with people and has done well with his connection, right? So he's so good at creating the rapport, but he's almost too good. And so what's happened is he makes them into friends and then can't close them, right? And so historically, he's been sort of back of the pack, not really crushing it. And we've been really working this script, and we've been doing we have some other programs with Teledudes and all these things that we have the script that we follow. We've worked it in, and I just was all over him, and my sales manager was all over him to follow the script. And we finally got it into his head. Last month he had his best month he's ever had. So he was almost at 40K. And then this month he's top producer right now. I mean, he's already over 10K, just after the first 4 days of the month. So it's been really interesting because you can do a lot more training, a lot more when you're doing those calls, right? We call them the hot seats when we're listening to the calls and the whole team is evaluating the call in front of everybody. It's a lot easier to evaluate where that call went if you're consistent, right? You can't keep coming to every call with a different approach because then you have no way to analyze and make improvements.
Yeah, to benchmark. You just don't know. I think even too, salespeople, we're always, we like to talk, right? And we can wander off and we can talk about a million different things. And having that script to know, hey, it's okay. Like the consumer, the customer is going to take me off this path, but I know where I need to come back to, right? And just have that, pull them back in. It really helps all of us because it keeps us on the journey, but it does allow us the flexibility because that's important, right? You're building rapport, you're letting them take you off the path, you giving them that sense of control. But you got these check marks to kick off, and you can pull yourself back in. So
it's exactly what he said, because I said, why is there such an improvement? And he said, because I know where I need to come back to. Like he just has this little GPS, it's like, okay, they go over here. Okay. You let them kind of wind out, finish talking and then bring them back.
Yeah.
So it's been really exciting.
It's like if I go to the grocery store without a list, I am wandering around grabbing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I can spend 2 hours in a grocery store, but if I have a list, boom, I'm on it. Like,
Yeah.
That's
how you end up with the oops berry. You're just like, oh man,
oops.
Oh, that's so funny. So here's a weird question, but like with your clients, when it comes to the insurance, are they more apt to the script, or are other industries more drawn to a script?
I think for sure insurance is the hardest to get on a script, because again, if you're talking health or life, or you're talking about life events that are more sort of broad based, and mortgage, you're talking about a house and getting a house. It's a particular life event. You're focused on that. Believe it or not, we also do senior living, like residents, and everything. It's a life event, but insurance,
I'm going to need one of those pretty soon.
Exactly. Well, we could tell you how to sell that too, but
no, just for me.
Just for you. Okay. That's good. It's soon, or because I got a really nice place. But I mean, so, when you're talking about health or you're talking about life, probably even things like, home and auto, like you're talking about, risk across their whole spectrum of their life. So you're asking them a bunch of stuff. You're asking about their family. And so I think it's really easy and comfortable to wander off into just the whole person's life, and that builds rapport and it feels good and all that sort of. So I would definitely say insurance is probably the least structured sort of sales process, and I think sometimes that makes it tough. It's because just like your guy, he's he's really good at building rapport. He's making best friends, but then he feels bad about selling his best friend
Right.
something, I guess, or so.
I think that that summarization is very accurate, and it's in line with kind of the way that a lot of agents run their business. So a lot of, and
Yeah.
don't throw tomatoes at me, agents, but a lot of agents kind of go in and let the day unfold, and they don't have
Yeah.
all these processes in place in their agency, and then they're on the hamster wheel, right? They're always on the hamster wheel, like because it's just it comes at you.
Yeah.
So they're the agent, right? And the agent operates the business, whereas the business owner or the agency owner is much different. It's more structured. You have all the processes, and
Right.
like that's the way we've set up our businesses, because we couldn't do this podcast and run teledudes and do all these other
Right.
things that we're involved in if we didn't have structure. And
Right.
so I think that it's a lot of work to lay down the structure up front, but it's very liberating and it allows you to unplug from the business, right? Like we just look
Oh,
at cost
yeah.
per sale. I don't agents constantly, which lead company, where do I buy? It's like, I don't care, man. I'll buy
Yeah.
all of it. We're buying all
Yeah.
the data, and whichever one
Right.
performs the best from a cost per sale standpoint, that's what we're going to pour more gas on.
Right. Well, and I think too, to that point, and this again being on the lead generator side of things and more the marketing side of things, one thing that I always try to remind people is understand where that lead is coming from, where that consumer is coming from, and it can help you sort of structure and potentially that script needs to be a little bit different, right? If it's a referral and it comes from Aunt Susie, then yeah, you're probably going to wander a little wider and you're going to use kind of the friends stuff. But if this is coming off of the internet and they filled out a form and they probably filled out a form 3 different places and they're probably getting like 10 different calls, like acknowledge that. It's like, hey,
Right.
I know you're getting a lot of calls. I want to be responsive. I certainly don't want to leave you behind. So just when it's convenient, give me a call back or whatever. And that's different than, hey, Susie gave me your name and she's my aunt and, I love her to death and she makes, great cupcakes and everything. When's the best time to meet you for coffee and let's talk about, the life insurance you're looking for, so really being able to structure that, I think, understanding that each one of those leads is created in a different way and the consumer comes into your funnel in a different way, it can be super productive too. So
What kind of volume for lead generation are you doing in the PNC space for real time?
yeah, so for real time, we're doing it on behalf of insurance agencies. So we're actually building the
Okay.
websites, generating those. And so, our average client is usually an office, probably has, anywhere from 6 to 10 folks in it. And we're generating real time a couple hundred leads a month for them.
Okay.
And then on the age lead side, which again is through a client. So we work for lead generators too. Those guys are selling, to even individual agents, thousands of leads a
Right.
month to agencies or to individual agencies. And that's the whole system, right? And you guys have probably done some similar stuff. That's building a book of business with data. And
Yeah.
so that's a whole different process. So yeah, those are kind of the two spectrums. We're not like we're not like these, man, I'm just blanking some of the name, but we're not like we're not a real-time aggregator. We're actually doing it on behalf of the individual companies themselves and just getting their website to generate leads for them.
Is it challenging to compete SEO wise against like your EverQuotes and your Quote Wizards? And I mean, they own that form space, don't they?
Yeah, so we actually do this for all of our industry. We do it for mortgage, and we do it and mortgages. We do multiple branches, agencies. We're not as big in insurance on the real time side. So the way that we do that, I mean, just the secret sauce is we use three legs of the stool marketing wise, right? We do Google Ads, and we super geo target around the branch or the office itself, so that we're not competing with EverQuote across the whole nation. Even though you got a statewide license, we're going to target those inquiries down by a tight radius around the office, and then the SEO and the content that we're putting on the site, that we're competing a little more nationally. But we're trying to be high in the funnel. We're trying to research, trying to figure this thing out, just to understand insurance. That's the kind of content that we're building there, letting SEO flow in. And then the big money maker is as we're acquiring those, and a lot of these guys are also buying leads, aged or real time. We're dumping that into the database, and then the third leg of the stool is email marketing. So we get nurturing working on that database. So we're doing the database marketing, and that's producing leads. And usually that's producing probably most of your leads for really good operations that have been around for a couple of years.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that email funnel? I think that's something that's, I mean, insurance agents usually don't have enough time to be writing out email sequences that are so long, or don't even really understand. You know, we have templated emails that you get with your CRM. 6 go out, and that's it. Just to kind of behind the curtain a little bit, what kind of email sequences are you talking about to generate those type of results?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different, kind of put them in buckets, right? So if you're working data, or this is pretty common too for insurance folks, so it's probably interesting, is a lot of times new insurance agents will come in and they'll like, oh, those are the cold leads, go work them, or here you go, here's a book of business, like you can go work there, and they're again cold leads. So we'll send out a 3 email warm up series that, again, it's usually just as simple as just checking in. Hey, it's been a while since I talked. Just want to see if you have any questions. This is what we talked about last, sort of thing. And again, that's automated. We're pulling just a little bit of personalization data out. We'll do that 3 times. We'll do it once when we trigger the campaign. We'll do it about 3 days later, and then we'll do it about 10 days later. And then if we get no response, if we get a response, then we just pick it up. It's a new lead, right? If we don't get any response, then they kick over into the nurturing sort of campaign. And then specific to the product that we think, or based on the data says they were interested in, we'll hit them once a week. Hopefully we're doing content on the website. So we'll hit them once a week. Hey, here's something to think about. Maybe it's not always about insurance, but it's something that's usually on our website. A couple lines, link to an article. Sometimes, again, since we're building these out, in batch so that they'll run a whole year. We built one where we did it. It ran for every week for 2 years, and then it looped around and did the same thing again. And consumers don't remember, right? You can even sprinkle in, some other stuff from other websites, that just tell them. And then usually once a month, we're hitting them with an offer. So it's like, hey, this is what's happening in the insurance world, or here's what's happening with rates, or here's what's happening in the market, and you should be concerned. And so that's the one-off. So all I have to do as an insurance agent, once I've batch written those emails, and again, they're really short. None of them are over 100 words. Some people do these big, long things. Those just don't work for us, right? Just a couple of things, a link, call me if you got any questions. But once a month, I'm sitting down and I'm finding something from Yahoo News or Yahoo Finance or something like that and saying, hey, this is why you should call me this month. And that's the one thing you do for email for the entire month, and that works. And wow. That you can do that on almost any. I mean, you can get more and more complex, but that's the basics.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's something that most insurance agents don't have enough time to do, is build out those sequences and manage those lists. And it can be a lot of work, but it can be obviously pretty rewarding as you build your database.
Yeah,
cool.
You could,
well,
you
what
could
would
some, you could. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no. What were you going to say? You can do some simple
I was just
stuff?
going to say, there's some other things that you can do to systemize that a little bit. I mean, one of the things that we do, and you can do this as simple, you got to be careful. You can't just dump raw data in here, but as long as you got data that's real, you can use something like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp, or you can, some of these other email packages. But a lot of times you can do this thing called RSS to email. So if you are doing blog posts, which is something we set up, we're actually writing the blog post, which you can hire somebody to do, right? Every time you publish, that triggers the email automatically. So now it's completely automated, and you're building that list over time. So that's another little technique. So there's a lot of little sort of low tech things that you can do to really ramp up the automation. So
love it. Well, I would love to know, especially from your perspective, lead gen is such an interesting and cool subject, especially going into the future. Everybody's purchasing on the internet now, and especially after the last year, we're super bullish on internet everything.
Yeah.
But what would you advise either somebody that's been an agent that's been in the business for a long time or a new agent coming into the industry? What would the number one piece of advice you'd give them?
As far as their lead generation strategy,
Yeah,
so
as far as marketing, from what you've learned with internet marketing with insurance.
yeah, so I always so I'm going to give a little bit of a fluffy answer. It really depends on the raw materials you start with, right? So if you go into an agency, you're starting, they got cold leads or they got a book of business they're going to hand it to you, then I'm starting with email because there's gold in those hills and I'm going to get the email cranking. If I got nothing, no raw materials or anything, then my strategy would be sort of a couple fronts. I'm obviously going to harvest that first, 100 or so referrals. Like I'm going to work my contacts. I'm going to get those first 100. Everybody wants to do that. Friends and family. Everybody wants to support you at the beginning. They'll give you Johnny and Susie's name. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm probably going to buy some leads, right? Because I don't have enough money to build a website yet. So I'm going to buy some leads, and maybe it's real time, maybe it's age, but I want to buy some leads that have some intent on them. So don't go just buy that raw consumer data, right? Get something with intent, somewhere where they filled out a form, they've raised their hand, there's some sort of intent. It could be now, it could be later. And just buy a little bit of those. And a lot of times, depending on the agencies you go through, they'll give you some marketing budget to buy that, but that's going to give you the most at bats to really get that sales system started. And like you guys said, like start with the script. Make sure you have the script before you start burning through that marketing budget. Get that script right, and then go after those leads. But bottom line, I see too many agents, too many just salespeople. They'll chew up all the sales advice on the internet. They'll watch all the YouTube videos, and they don't have any leads. So what are they going to do? They're talking to themselves in the mirror. So you got to have those leads. But by hook or crook, get some leads and start working them.
A lot of pieces to the funnel.
Yeah. And then you can
Love it.
Then you can build out the more advanced stuff, the brand and the website and all that stuff later.
Right.
But get some leads and start getting some reps in.
So if people want a scoop of Bill Rice, where are they going?
Oh,
yeah. So scoop of Bill Rice. So if you want to talk about age leads, and we've got a bunch of sales stuff and some videos, I put together a little page, billrice.com/age leads. And it's mostly focused on kind of how to work those, because it's an interesting, cheap way to get started. And then if you want to go beyond that, you can find me on YouTube as Bill Rice. You can find me on YouTube searching for age leads. Got a bunch of stuff there. And then I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn under Bill Rice too. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, great.
Cool.
Bill, thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Did I take the wind out of your
sails?
sails?
Yeah, it was fun talking to you guys. I'll run the gauntlet anytime.
All right, cool.
Love it.
Well, we will see you down the road, and we'll put some links in the bottom so they can find you easily. Thank you, Bill.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.